points per game on offense stat easily this weekend and give them enough to overtake the Browns. Now, can he do it twice? I think he can, but I don't know that this is somebody that you want to play in fantasy football just yet, and here's why. The reality is Johnny Manziel is a talented player. He's going to get you some points through running the football. We just don't know that we're going to get a full game of what we saw in the preseason for one quarter. We just don't know. The Bengals are certainly in the playoff hunt and have a lot to play for, and we know their defense can play well. This is a week not to take that chance to play Johnny Manziel. Well, unless you're in the toilet bowl. You're playing for a consolation run and you want to do that and just have some fun with it, fine. But if you're the person with Aaron Rodgers, you're the person with Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, you don't bench him to play Johnny Manziel. You stick with the top quarterbacks in this league in fantasy football, and specifically this week, you play them. In this game, for the Bengals, I like Jeremy Hill. I already mentioned that to Riz from Oakland when he called in. I like him to dominate the touches, and I think he's an RB2 based on what's been in the media, what was posted in the media today based on comments made by the offensive coordinator. I like A.J. Green to get 100 yards or close to it, and he's a 50-50 shot to get you a TD. For the Browns, we already talked about Johnny Manziel. One player I think you definitely have to play, and you can consider playing him if you're doing the daily games, like through DraftKings, Isaiah Crowell. He's a top start going up against a defense giving up the fourth most fantasy points to the position, which, by the numbers, is 170 all-purpose yards and 1 TD. Josh Gordon is a low wide receiver 1, high wide receiver 2. In the Browns DST, I think you could start him at home against a team in the top 10 of most fantasy points allowed to opposing defenses and special teams. I hope I'm right here. I think the Cleveland fans deserve it. I think they're in the right place at the right time. Surging, got Manziel, Browns win at home.
All right, the Houston Texans travel to the Indianapolis Colts. The 7-6 Texans, the 9-4 Colts, who had a fantastic come-from-behind win against the Browns, 25-24 last week. Andrew Luck threw the ball 53 times, and he really looked human for most of that game. Found a way to get it done in the second half. Tip your cap to him. What's scary is he was the Colts' leading rusher that day. 5 carries for 37 yards. It's just a little scary. For Houston, they've been a little up and down in between two quarterbacks. Ryan Fitzpatrick did not throw 6 touchdowns last week, 13 of 19 for 135 yards for 0 touchdowns, but they didn't really need it. Playing the Jaguars, beat them 27-13. So Andre Johnson is questionable with a concussion. So even though he's not really the Andre Johnson of old, he's still somebody that the defense has to account for on the field. The Colts, on the other hand, have been sneaky good on defense, 13th in rushing yards per game, 22nd in pass yards per game. But they somehow find a way to make plays when they need to. The Colts bring in the top-rated passing offense, matching up against the 28th ranked passing defense of the Houston Texans. I am going to go off script a little bit here, and I'm just going to go with a huge gut decision here. And I'm going to pick the Texans to actually upset the Colts here on the road. Don't ask me to justify it. I can't. It's just a gut feeling looking at this game.
Keith, I think you've just disturbed the order of the universe by your selection, but I'll try and choose correctly and save Earth from an interplanetary disaster and pick the Colts. Look, the last time the Texans and the Colts played, Andrew Luck had one of his best games of the season, thrown for 370 yards and 3 TDs. They handled the Texans, and now they're playing him at home. I like the Colts at home. I like Andrew Luck. I like T.Y. Hilton against a defense giving up the second most fantasy points to the position. Darren Herron's not going to be as good of a play as you might think. He's more of a flex at best against what's a tough Texans rush defense. For the Texans, Arian Foster, top 5 start. He should get you 100 all-purpose yards or more in a score. It's a number 7 fantasy defense against running backs. DeAndre Hopkins, he struggled last time. 12 yards receiving. That's it. But if you look at his performance recently, he's one of the hottest wide receivers in the NFL right now. You have to play him in fantasy. You have to ride the hot hand that you've been given. And now the Texans defense, I got him in one league. I'm probably going to have to play him. because there's just nothing on the waiver wire. But I got to tell you, not a great week to play them. They're a low-end start, but they're a real shaky one. Keith, come on, man. Colts at home, baby.
I got to trust my gut sometimes. Something's telling me. Maybe it's because I picked them in the season previews to finish better than the Colts, and I just need this really, really bad. Perhaps.
That must be it,
Perhaps.
man. Otherwise, I got to ask you, are you dieting? What are you doing?
Some of my picks make me want to be bulimic, but that's not funny. Don't laugh at that. That's not a joke, Jim. Not a joke. 585-633-7487 if you got any lineup questions of your own. 585-633-7487. The Minnesota Vikings travel to the Detroit Lions, the 6-7 Vikings. The Vikings are hovering around 500, kids, even with a rookie quarterback and a turnstile at running back now with Jerick McKinnon on the IR. Remember when they signed Ben Tate? Remember we were wondering, when is that all going to come to fruition? Haven't heard anything about that leading up to tonight's show. Stay tuned, though, kids. Detroit Lions 9-4, coming off a 34-17 win over the Buccaneers. The Lions are, what they are offensively. The Vikings have the 23rd ranked rushing defense. They do have the 6th ranked passing defense, so it presents a bit of a matchup problem. The question here is, kids, do you want to take the rookie quarterback on the road against the Detroit Lions defense, who is first in rushing and 10th in passing yards? No way. Lions win this.
Yeah, the Lions should dominate the Vikings at home. Keith, we've seen the Lions the last couple weeks put it into high gear. They're looking more like the Lions circa 2013. They've got Calvin Johnson back. They're opening up their passing game, and that's going to help their running game as well. And despite the fact that the Vikings have what I think is one of the better defenses in the league, even though they may not be one of the better fantasy football defenses in the league, the Lions should be able to handle this Vikings team. Oh, they've scored 34 points in each of the last 2 games. I thought that was an interesting stat. And they're also second least in touchdowns allowed. But turning to fantasy, for the Vikings, the only player I really like for them is going to be Charles Johnson, and I'll tell you why. In 2 of the last 3 games he's scored, and he's had 41 to 103 yards receiving in that range in the last 3 games. So if you need a low-end wide receiver 3 or a flex play, Johnson is a guy you can consider with the possibility of getting you a touchdown. And then for the Lions, I think you start the usual suspects, and you expect them to put some points on the board, and that would include Matt Stafford, Calvin Johnson. I like Golden Tate as a wide receiver 2. Joique Bell is a strong RB2. You start the Lions defense because they've been one of the best defenses in the league, and if you got them, you've probably been playing them most of the season as your starter. And one player I think you should avoid is going to be Reggie Bush. And the reason for that is, and it's as simple as this, you just have to ask yourself, what has he done for you lately? What has he done for you lately? You ask that question, and the answer is nothing. And with this being the fantasy playoffs, this would be a week I would rather avoid his 1, 2, or 3 fantasy point performance, or the risk of it. I'm going to take the Lions at home, Keith.
All right. Are you okay with scrapping the break?
I'm good. Let's keep going.
All right, we got about 20 minutes left, and we're only halfway through.
Okay.
So we got to press on. The 2-11 Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have underwhelmed greatly, losing to the Cardinals last week, 17-14, getting shut out in the second half completely. But the Cardinals play good defense. That's not necessarily a knock against the Chiefs, although you would like to see them do something. The Raiders, on the other hand, beat the 49ers. Really? 24-13. Derek Carr, 22 of 28, 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. Latavius Murray, 23 rushes for 76 yards. Michael Rivera, 7 catches for 109 yards. The Chiefs make me not want to like them. They make me not want to pick them. But at the end of the day, they're the home team, and they're the better team. They still have the second-rated pass offense. They are shredded. They are just getting shredded on the ground right here. And so, can the Raiders take advantage? I don't know. I'm not taking the road team on this game, though. No way. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Keith, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Take the home team in this particular instance. I mean, it certainly is a game where the Raiders could upset just because they upset it last time. It stands to reason that they can do it again. But because the Chiefs are playing at home, you have to, and it's the second time, you have to think they're going to show up better prepared and ready to play them. That having been said, in fantasy, I like Latavius Murray for the Raiders. He tore him up last time. He is an RB2 or a flex play this week. We have him ranked on our player rankings at number 16. The Chiefs are giving up 137 rush yards on the ground, and the only question is whether or not Latavius Murray can score. Obviously, he can. Let's hope he does. For the Chiefs, let's hope Jamal Charles is healthy. If you have him like I have him on one team, he's a top 5 start this week. But I'll tell you, if he's not active for some reason, now Davis, while not a top 5 start, he becomes a workhorse running back this particular week, and I love him to do well in the place of Jamal Charles against a defense giving up roughly 170 all-purpose yards and 1 TD. And if you need the help at tight end, look no further than Michael Rivera. He's put together a good enough season to be deserving of a play, and he'll be in the conversation as a draftable player next season. Chiefs at home.
The Miami Dolphins travel to the New England Patriots. 7-6 Dolphins, the 10-3 Patriots. Remember week 1 when the Dolphins smacked the Patriots around? Yeah, not going to happen this week, kids. I'm sorry. I hate to burst your bubble. The one angle that I'm really interested in is that the Dolphins' defensive passing game is ranked 3rd in the league right now against Tom Brady and the Patriots, who are 2nd in the league in scoring. It'll be very interesting and a good matchup. The Patriots are home. They're playing really good football. I don't care that they lost at Green Bay. Green Bay is a hard beat right now. I'm still picking the Patriots here.
Keith, I agree. The Patriots at home are an unbeatable team from my perspective. The Dolphins, they've also been beat up a little bit by injuries, especially in the secondary. It's not Brent Grimes they lost. I forget who they lost, but they lost their strong safety. This is going to be the perfect opportunity for Tom Brady and the Patriots to pretty much dismantle the Dolphins, in my opinion. That having been said, they're the number 3 scoring offense. They have the number 9 defense. Tom Brady is a must-start as a QB1. I like LeGarrette Blount as a borderline RB2 and certainly a good flex play. We have him ranked at number 25. Rob Gronkowski, Julian Edelman, Brandon LaFell, all must-starts. Avoid Shane Vereen if you can, and this is my logic to this. Shane Vereen hasn't done much lately either, and even though it's difficult to understand what the approach is of the Patriots on a week-to-week basis, the reality has been is that LeGarrette Blount has dominated the touches the last 2 weeks. They've won. They seem to like LeGarrette Blount. Certainly, to have a player leave your team and then welcome him back and start him ahead of a young player who basically tore up their gridiron, in my mind, makes no sense except they like him, and that's it. For the Dolphins, Lamar Miller, we have him ranked as a number 26 running back. This is a tough matchup for him, so that just makes him a flex play. RB2, depending on who's on your roster. Mike Wallace is a wide receiver 3, Jarvis Landry a flex. You can start the Patriots defense if you need to. It's not a bad play at all because I really think the Dolphins are going to struggle this time around in a place where the Patriots are dominant. Patriots at home.
The 3-10 Washington Redskins travel to the New York Giants 4-9. Yes, I'll use the analogy again. This game is like trying to pick which puddle of vomit to lick. The Giants are a mess, but they look good against the Titans. But you know what? They were playing the Titans. Odell Beckham with a big game, 11 catches for 130 yards. Andre Williams with 24 rushes for 131 yards and a touchdown, and also a touchdown for ODB. For the Redskins, they were shut out by the Rams last week. Colt McCoy, 20 of 32 for just 199 yards. Colt McCoy was also the Redskins' leading rusher, 2 rushes for 11 yards. So either that tells you everything you need to know about the Redskins, or it tells you everything we need to know about the Rams. But here's the deal, kids. They're still the New York Giants, and at home against the Redskins, I'll take Eli Manning. I'm good with that. I'm taking the Giants.
Yeah, I'm going to skip the puddles and pick the Giants too, Keith. Look, they came off a fantastic win, a dominating win against the Titans last week. Certainly, the Titans were disadvantaged once they lost their starting quarterback. But hey, they got 8 sacks. We'll take half that production this week, so you can look to the Giants DST as an option. With the Redskins giving up 26.6 points per game, 28 passing TDs on the season. You have to like the Giants' passing game. Eli Manning is a borderline QB1 this week because of all the TDs allowed. Odell Beckham, obviously, he's become a must-start. You start him every week as a wide receiver, too. You got to like Larry Donnell in this particular game. And Rashad Jennings, last week he didn't get that many carries. He was still sort of coming back from injury, and they're easing him back in. But he's a little RB2 this